And we are live. At least I hope so. Looks like everything's up and running here. Just make sure we're live on YouTube. There we go. Okay. And X is showing up. Good. I always like to check this because this day in social media, you never know. So, a lot has happened since we last talked. Yes, we're going to talk about the evolution of our spring weather pattern, the potential for thunderstorms, but of course, there's some other things going on in the world. And so it's important to cover them because, well, let's face it, people are going to ask me anyway about everything with what is going on with OSHA and not OSHA, NOAA and the National Weather Service and probably OSHA's next too. So there's a lot of cuts here. All right. Now I'm not going to get into the politics of this because no matter what I say, I'm going to piss off half of you, no matter what. I can be uh, reasonable and use some logic here and say, hey, look, spending's too high. You have to have cuts. But then you look at the other side, and some of the cuts are just plain stupid. Okay. So you're both right. There has to be cuts, and some of these cuts are stupid. But let me address. I know some of you guys are young meteorologists, and I want to make this point because there are some of you who follow me. I know that there's some of them who are at the National Weather Service right now who have reached out to me, and those who are just in college starting out their career. You cannot let a roadblock define who you are. And I say this as someone who's been there. Okay. Where I started my career great, took a step back, had a struggle. Here I am now. I'm not saying that this path is the right one for you. I'm not saying copy me. I am not saying that because what I do, look, there is no days off. There is no break. This is what I do 24/7, 365. I may take off a couple hours for Christmas and stuff like that, for my wife's birthday, stuff like that. But I live this. That may not be you. You may be more interested in environmental studies. You might be interested in developing model data. Let me tell you something. The free market and the private market is there for you. Okay? There will be demand. Maybe not this very second. Maybe not right now as you're sitting there. But what I want you to do is first take a deep breath, accept what's going on, understand it's okay to feel scared, angry, upset, not knowing what's going to happen next, no clue how you're going to pay your bills. Embrace all that, all right? Just like anybody else would. Then take a deep breath and start building yourself a game plan. And that game plan may be something like what I did. I worked at a bank. I worked at a appliance store to learn how to do sales. Right. I worked at a clothing store, sold suits. All right. I handled the general public, sold food. I struggled. I'm walking in with a college degree and I'm doing a job like, cleaning toilets. I did all that, right? We all did, right? And while I did that, hey, it paid the bills, but allowed me to build where I am today. We have a house. We have you following. I am not telling you it's going to be easy. I'm not going to give you all sunshine and rainbows and unicorns and tell you everything's going to be great tomorrow and you're gifted and loved. Look, this is going to be hard. Thus is life. But because it's hard, you're going to be much stronger for it. And I know that because I went through it. And there are going to be days where you're going to feel down. You're not going to know what the hell you're doing. You're wondering if it's worth it. And then there are days when you look around and you see you built your kingdom. And your kingdom could look any way. It could look totally different from what I'm doing. It could be you on top of a mountain studying the development of up a mountain, how it impacts precipitation and pollution, right? It could be something where you're developing a model specifically for flight to another planet, or to or a model for ocean liners when they're not getting people sick. Okay, so what I'm just trying to share with you is that, look, I get it. Don't let fear control you. There's a lot of people running around for various reasons, creating a lot of fear. For example, there's potential that they're going to be selling two buildings that we're renting, that NOAA is renting. Turns out there are no supercomputers there. It's just a lot of clerical stuff. So you see how that fear can get to you? So yeah, there's a lot of stuff going on. It's scary, but take a deep breath and give yourself a chance to exhale. Get off the rage baiting, okay? Because that's what's going on around here. All right, and understand you're not alone. You're not the only one. You're not going to be the last one. But it's up to you to make the best of the situation, and that could be a different part of your career. So I get it. Okay. So I wanted to cover that because I think it's very important. I have a lot of young meteorologists who follow me, ask about books and stuff. What happened the past couple of days should not determine who you are and what you want to do with your life, regardless of what plans. Okay. So maybe it's not in government, it's something else. So I just wanted to get that out there because, look, I've been there. All right. So I get it. With that, now let's talk about the spring pattern we're in. Uh, Despite what some people said, I know we had a kind of a split polar vortex that's going to try to develop over the next 7 to 10 days. Winter's over. Let me say this again. Winter is over. No matter how much somebody tries to pull off some sort of similar pattern from 1963 or some garbage like that, winter is over. So let's take a look at some of the data, and because we're going to talk about the thunderstorm threat and go from there. So here is our 500 millibar pattern. Our 500 millibar pattern is influenced by two primary forcing mechanisms. Really three if you really want to count. Okay. The first one is the contracting polar vortex, which is then going to start to collapse because we're moving into spring. We're losing our thermal gradient in the lower stratosphere and the troposphere, and you're losing your wind component, your circulation. So the polar vortex, as we move towards April, gets all warped and funny and then fades away. And while that process is happening, there will be some cool shots, but not Arctic shots. So you might get a couple days in the middle of spring where it's raw and ugly and a backdoor cold front is creating havoc, while those of you in Philadelphia are in the 70s with sky cloud cover. That is going to be the theme of the spring. A lot of volatility and a lot of storms. Why? Because our other forcing mechanism is generally the MJO. The ENSO, the El Nino Southern Oscillation, which we're either in El Nino or La Nina, and then sometimes neutral, is well neutral. Okay, so as much as some people try to say, oh, we have a La Nina, we had a La Nina for about 15 minutes. We had the shortest La Nina I've ever seen. Okay, it literally came and went. All right, if it was a teenager, it popped into the library for 15 minutes and then pretended it did its homework and then ran out to the party. It was not here long enough to really have a substantial impact on our winter nor the spring. What is influencing our weather pattern is the MJO. Okay, now the MJO is a fickle beast. you can't really do a long range forecast on it. It's rather changeable, and you kind of have to guess what is the overall theme. Well, the overall theme thus far as it moves into spring, it's more of a phase 812. 812 is really good for you because that means rain. And God, do we need more rain? So we're going to see more active weather patterns, and we're going to see the subtropical jet stream getting pretty active. Not as active as if we had an El Nino, because that's when it's really amped up. But it's going to be able to create some nice dynamic storms. We're already seeing one. And if you have any friends and family in the Southern Plains, in the Mississippi River Valley, Tennessee River Valley, Ohio River Valley, it's going to be stormy. And then after that, it gets to the Mid Atlantic. But we have to wait a bit on the severe weather here. I'll explain why in a moment. So when we take a look at our 500 millibar pattern, again, it is pretty active here. What I'm seeing here is a lot of fast moving short waves, a lot more influence from the Pacific Ocean here, a lot of Pacific air masses involved here. You're getting some influence from the Gulf Coast here and the Gulf of Mexico, America, Taiwan. I don't care. It's down here, a lot of moisture surging northward, okay? And you're noticing a lot of the short waves up here in the polar, a lot of your upper level lows. Well, this is all because the polar vortex is basically starting to fade away, and the ability to transport your polar and Arctic air masses southward are going bye-bye. They're going on vacation, they're going with Santa Claus, they're out in Miami Beach, and it's not coming back, at least not until maybe November. So that's where we are. A very active weather pattern. And you could see in terms of the 850 millibar temperatures, as we move forward over the next 15 days, we'll get some cool shots, but understand that the evolution of the relationship between the 850 millibar temperatures and the surface temperatures are far different, okay, because of the sun angle, which does matter, by the way. So that minus 10 degrees Celsius, which supported mid 20s, now supports upper 30s to lower 40s. So as we move forward and we get these polar and Arctic, well, really just polar air masses, even when they drop in like this, oh, it looks chilly, it looks, impressive, but it's really the mid to upper 40s at this point. So you kind of see my point here when you're looking at these modeled snow maps and some of these solutions. And the GFS made everyone really excited for about 3 days as it produced a fantasy storm. The problem now is that if you take your snow map and you apply it here, if you just use this looks like snow. This looks like it could support snow. But what you have to do is take into account what are the 9 to 25 millibar temperatures and the surface temperatures. When does this event happen? So if we roll off, let's see here, let's go to 2 p.m. Yeah, it looks chilly, but middle of the day, at this point, it's in the 40s because you have to adjust for that sun angle influence. So when you bring down the temperature dry adiabatically or moist adiabatically, you have to make those adjustments. And unfortunately, you can't just rely on model guidance. You got to use your old noggin there and kind of look at what your experience is and how to make those adjustments mathematically. Okay, so you have to run a little bit of calculus in your head, but that's okay. You'll learn it. No worries. Hey, look, you got through calculus 2, you get through calculus 3. It's okay. It just runs right in your head. It's not even a problem. It's like once it's loaded in there, you're good to go. You're like a walking computer. So the evolution here is telling me we got a lot of polar Pacific air masses. Any polar air mass is going to moderate rapidly. We're not seeing a huge surge northward from the Gulf Coast here, which tells me I'm not really seeing well above normal temperatures. When we see above normal temperatures in this weather pattern, it's going to be Pacific air masses coming off the Rockies, warming, and then shoving their way towards the East Coast. So you'll get some days in the 60s and you fall back into the lower 40s and then back up into the 60s again. So a very, very roller coaster type of weather pattern. So that's what we're dealing with overall. That's the overall theme. Now, right now, it's pretty quiet. Winds are from the south. It is nice and warm out. Look at this. Temperatures in the lower to mid 40s over the northern interior. We are starting to get some colder temperatures here in the Catskills and the central Hudson River Valley. Poconos are still pretty warm here. Down towards the coast, we're in the mid 40s to lower 50s around the region. So we got plenty of warm air for this time of year, seasonably warm air surging northward. On the radar, it's pretty quiet. Now, this is a great example of how the upper level winds influence this whole weather pattern. And we're going to walk you through this. But right now, there's not much going on because we have what's called sinking air subsidence. All of your activity is back here to the west. And it's really important to study this radar because there's a couple of interesting little clues here. So we have a lot of embedded convective precipitation, but your real severe weather is down here, okay, down to the south of the warm front. You have some severe thunderstorms. Early, we had some tornado aspects as well. This is a triple point low back here, and then our other low behind the occluded system, and then we have another low here. So you have essentially two warm air masses. You have the pure tropical coming out of the Gulf. You have your tropical modified with some Pacific influences to the north of that, and that's supporting your heavy rainfall. And then back here is kind of your polar Pacific air mass, and back here is your polar air mass. And here is kind of like polar modified. So you have multiple different air masses that are taking shape here, interacting and producing this line. And as a result, you're getting different elements of convective precipitation. You have embedded thunderstorms and heavy rainfall. Down here, you have your severe thunderstorms. As this lifts northward, this zone is going to be lifting up towards North Carolina and Virginia. So let's say from southern Virginia down through North Carolina and off towards the Florida Panhandle, it's going to get pretty stormy, okay, because you're going to get a lot more instability, a lot more tropical air surging northward. We are going to be in this pocket here. Embedded thunderstorms, heavy rainfall. The one thing we got to watch out in this scenario is that heavy rainfall can mix down strong winds. So just keep that in the back of your mind. On the infrared satellite picture, you can see the differences in the air masses as well. Look at this pure convective environment. Look at the difference in the cloud cover compared to here. Here it's kind of broken up. You have some convective elements, but it's not solid, right? This down here is solid. This is ripping and roaring. It has the potential for tornadoes. There's a lot of updraft involved. Very impressive cold cloud tops. You have your drier air coming in from behind, your different polar air masses coming in from behind. Here is where you're getting more of your isotropic lifting. Notice the difference in your cloud cover, right? Notice how this is more expansive with, I believe, a dark blue, and then you have your green here, and this is more solid green. Okay, so you have a lot more concentrated lifting involved in this, whereas the isotropic lifting is more spread out. So you have three different modes of lifting here showing up with three different types of air masses involved. So it's pretty interesting to see how this is shaping up. And on a water vapor satellite picture, you can see the dry air. You see this dry air here? This is what drives your severe thunderstorms because the atmosphere is not linear. Okay, it's slanted. So you have a lot of moisture here, and this dry air is trying to cut into it with the cold air transport. And so that's what leads to all your instability. And so when you look at a SQT, it kind of looks like a goalpost when you have this severe thunderstorm threat because you have a very unstable, warm, moisture loaded air mass with a parcel in the atmosphere rising rapidly, running into the dry air and allowing for the thunderstorm to grow because that parcel is warmer than the surrounding atmosphere, which is much colder. So you get this explosion. Again, you can see on the water vapor. Look at the difference. There's your convective element. There's your sign of some convective, but also isotropic lifting involvement here. And then here's pure isotropic lifting. Okay, this is more of a steady rainfall with embedded thunderstorms, pure thunderstorms, winds, hail, all that mess. So this is important to study because as we move through the spring, when we understand the different elements involved when we're looking at the satellite picture, move away from the models, especially when they start losing a little bit of their reliability, and look at the observations. It tells you a lot without even having to look at the HRR 20 hours out. Okay, so it tells you a lot about what the environment is. So let me refresh this here. And again, everyone's kind of putting up these notices because you kind of have to, because you're not sure, okay, is this reliable data or not? Is it old or not? We'll see what happens. Keep an open mind, keep an open ability to look at data in different ways. Okay, that's my advice to you. So here is the winds at 250 millibars. I want to show you this because this is really cool. First, why are we quiet right now? There's our ridge axis. So this ridge axis right here, this sets up sinking air. Notice how the winds kind of crash in here? That's subsidence and convergence and confluence causing the air to sink over us. So we're quiet right now. This, though, this is divergence and diffluence. This area sets up the ability for air to rapidly rise. So when you see this, you know that there's a pretty good chance of seeing some strong to severe thunderstorms in this area right here. You also see that divergence and diffluence here, okay? Where it's not as strong as this, not as impressive, but still supports plenty of lifting. And you're seeing that because the trough is starting to go into a negative tilt. This is why when we were talking about in the winter, the importance of the trough axis, because with a positive tilt, if the trough is like this really doesn't really get going. Okay, you don't have as much divergence and diffluence. You don't get the spread. You don't get the different jet streak dynamics. When you have a negative tilt, that's when it's game on. That's when you start to see all of these upper level components coming together. Then you go lower in the atmosphere. Refresh this, close this. This is the 850 millibar jet. And this is what we have to watch out for tomorrow afternoon and evening. This jet streak is already impressive on its own. Okay, we're talking about 50 to 70 knot winds, transporting plenty of moisture into the atmosphere, right? It's transporting right out of the Gulf, right into the Mississippi River Valley, Tennessee River Valley, so on and so forth, okay? But the other thing is that the divergence and diffluence aloft is creating a rapidly rising air and then sinking air within heavy precipitation. Well, the momentum of this air gets transported down to the surface. And this is where we start to get the potential for wind gusts pushing 30, 40, 50, 55 miles per hour. Certainly a possibility as we move into the evening rush hour. What a wonderful time to have that play out. Well, it looks like we're going to be dealing with that as we move forward. And just to kind of give you another look here, I wanted to show you the precipitable water values, and you could see the moisture being transported northward. So this is what's different compared to what we were seeing in the winter, where you didn't have a lot of deep moisture to work with. This storm clearly does, and that's why we have that potential for a half an inch to an inch and a half of rain, and the potential for ending our drought potential. So the way this looks like in the model guidance, this right here at 500 millibars, obviously a lot of people focus on the PVA. But what I want you to focus on is the fact that the 500 millibar heights are falling. So that means that the ability for rising air is much greater. You're increasing the instability in the atmosphere as you get in colder air aloft. And of course, you also get the stronger PVA marching in as well. While that's happening, right around the evening rush hour tomorrow, look at these winds. Now, this, let's see here, based on this chart, we're talking around 64 to 75 knots lined up here. Now, not all this is going to get mixed down, but the problem here is that you introduce the potential for heavy rainfall with some of these embedded thunderstorms, you're going to get that mixing down towards the surface. So tomorrow evening's rush hour is not going to be pretty. And we certainly are working with plenty of moisture. Our precipitable water values are around 1.5 inches, possibly even some 2-inch spots here. Now, when you see this signal down here, you see this, that's a convective feedback signal. So when you're dealing with convection, kind of 50-50 as to whether or not that is actually reality. But I'd back away from the result of that, especially in terms of QPF. It looks like a convective feedback signal, but it also tells you, hey, look, this is going to be a pretty good line marching its way through. Not all of it's severe. I wouldn't be surprised if they issue a severe thunderstorm warning, not necessarily because of the intensity of the storm, but because of the winds being mixed down to the surface within the line of heavy rainfall and the thunderstorms that could produce wind damage and power outages. So what does this look like on the mesoscale guidance? Well, we'll use the NAM first, as this is the best model to use at this time period. We'll also look at the HRR because people ask. And the NAM shows a pretty good representation here of what I'm talking about. Again, this signal here matches up very much to what we're seeing on the radar, right? Where you have a line of heavy rainfall and some embedded thunderstorms. And within some of these embedded thunderstorms, that's where you get your winds mixed down. And it shows up pretty nicely here on the HRR as well. Again, this might be a little bit overdone, but you kind of get the idea here, right? You get a line of heavy rainfall, some embedded thunderstorms, and the best way to see how these winds are going to mix down is to look at your skew T. If it aligns up, there it is. Okay, let me just load that. New NAM guidance, and what I'm going to do is set it up right here. And we're going to look at the skew T over southeastern Pennsylvania. Why southeastern Pennsylvania? Because this is usually the best potential for your convective thunderstorm environment. And of course, it ends up with an error. Well, it worked beforehand. There we go. Okay, so what do we take from this? This environment, first of all, it's stable at the surface. You got around 900 millibars, 925 millibars. This is stable. You got a little bit slight low level boundary layer instability. A lot of your instability is around 700 to 800 millibars. Notice the dry pocket here. That's very important. That dry pocket allows for us to mix down this wind. And that's why we have the potential for those strong wind gusts. Pardon me, I'm going to drink some coffee. Good stuff. So that's why this is not a skew T for severe thunderstorms or anything of that nature. But this signal here certainly tells me, hey, some of these winds are going to get mixed down to the surface as a result. Now, let's take a look at the coastal plain. And this is much different. So the key factor here in this environment is that you're having more of an influence from the Atlantic Ocean. So to the east of the Delaware River Valley, let's say to the east of Camden, okay, you're dealing with more of a marine environment. So this is a very stable, moisture-loaded air mass, dry air here at the mid-levels. So this dry air is going to interact with that moisture transport, that lifting of moisture, and is capable of mixing down those strong winds. So this isn't a traditional severe thunderstorm environment, but it is certainly a strong wind environment. And so we're going to be dealing with some very stormy conditions tomorrow. But overall, after that, it's pretty quiet heading into the weekend. Just a few isolated showers, and that's about it. It's pretty quiet. We're still on that roller coaster, but we're seasonably chilly and then we're seasonably warm. I don't see any large extremes either way. So that is my breakdown of the weather pattern. And now I will take your questions. So, as always, we'll start off first with the premium live chat, and then we'll go to social media and see what we got there. So, Card says convection well to the south of us in southern mid Atlantic suppresses convection from incoming cold fronts tomorrow, so that while we get rain, it's not as intense as, and the storms are not as strong as the models might be showing. Um, Yes and no. There will be some of that factor. We're going to be really driven by the jet stream dynamics here involved here. This is why I'm staying away from severe thunderstorms. The primary severe thunderstorm signal, so to speak, is going to be the capability of those winds at the mid levels to get mixed down. Other than that, we're looking at a moderate to heavy rainfall event The precipitable water values are high enough to certainly support over a half an inch of rain, and then some spots here of an inch and a half in a few locations. Not widespread though. But I agree that I do not see any support for severe thunderstorms. This past Sunday, Monday, 850 millibar temperatures were anywhere from minus 12 to minus 16 below 0 Celsius, while surface temperatures were still near or above freezing. That is early March figure that the cold Sunday and yesterday is the coldest we get at least late November, if not December. Yeah, pretty much. We are done with the fantasy snowstorms. Okay. So I just want to, and for the love of God, if I see one more person post to CFS to suggest for a winter storm, tear up your diploma. Stop it. Stop it. Okay. The CFS is a climate model. It's not a synoptic model. That matters. It's like you're using a sledgehammer to put up a picture on the wall. It's ridiculous. Regular coffee or flavored? This is actually just regular coffee. Yeah. Yeah, we're gonna save. Yeah, we went. Where did we go? We went to Staples, right? Yeah, we went to Staples. Got like a suitcase worth, which I am already demolishing. So I had to buy another suitcase. Will this be a stable marine air mass for the wind type scenario? For northeastern and central New Jersey. Uh, the closer you are to the coast, yes. Northeast New Jersey, yes. Central New Jersey, let's say to the east of Freehold and eastern Ocean County, yes. With a lot of heavy rain. But the thing is that even with the stable environment, the primary concern is going to be those winds getting mixed down because of the heavy rainfall. Good question, though. Let's see what we got on YouTube. Um, How were you able to nail the long range winter forecast in October? Great job. Well, thank you, Jeff. Well, basically failing a lot. I mean, honestly, the 2 years before that absolutely sucked by my standards. So I had to study and figure out, okay, what am I missing with the influences from the volcano and the evolution of the polar vortex, and there was a factor that I was missing with the QBO that I really had to study. I spent all summer trying to learn and figure out what am I doing wrong and how do I correct it. And that's how this winter actually played out pretty well because I finally figured that out. I'm confused. I missed the intro. Let's see here. I think the SSWE, that's the stratospheric warming, may make April cooler. Eh. Okay. April typically features a lot of backdoor cold fronts. Now, the problem here is that your evolution of the polar vortex before it dies is more focused towards Europe and Asia than North America. Yes, we do see some below normal heights at 50 millibars, but it supports more of a below normal heights off of the New England coast. And yeah, there is that backdoor cold front signal, but I don't think April's going to be predominantly cool, but there will be some cool spots, and it will be kind of like raw. So probably not the best way to open up the baseball season, but there's that. 18 inches of snow in Salisbury this winter, about 4 inches above average. There you go. Nice. Uh, okay, so in terms of Long Island, if you're looking for thunderstorms, you got to battle a marine air mass. So you're a little early. Give it till June, July. Let's see. And is there anything on X or Facebook? Cool. Death Wish Coffee now has mocha nut fudge and peppermint. I've never been a fan of peppermint. Yeah, mocha coffee to go with the regular and vanilla coffees. Well, there you go. I have to check that out. I have to back off on the coffee a little bit in the spring, or else I'll never go to sleep. But I don't believe that for a second. All right, let's see what we got here. Do you think northern New Jersey is done for any snow until next winter? I mean, unless you're on top of like the mountain in Sussex County, peak of the mountain, go up to where the goats are. That's where you'll find snow. Um, just like the thousands that got let. Oh, okay. All right. Let me just say this. Let's not do politics. If you want to watch politics, there's other people watching politics. Because at the end of the day, no one voted for me for president. And if they did, then we would have fixed it. I can give it's I will give a centimeter. And the centimeter is it's not my fault you didn't vote for my wife. Okay? I wrote her in. All of you should have too. Let's see. Thoughts about ski country snow in Killington. I think that the Green and White Mountains, Killington, you guys are going to do really well. I think that there's going to be some potential for at least from some snowmaking. So, I would say not too bad. Let's see here. Let's see. So the primary theme here with the rainfall for tomorrow is heavy rainfall, and then those. I'm really concerned about that embedded wind gusts in the heavy rainfall. Um, that can produce some power outages. This isn't like a widespread 60-mile-per-hour wind event for the entire region, but you're gonna have basically your air moving very quickly in the mid levels and then get drawn down to heavy rainfall and slammed down like a hammer. And that is what I'm concerned about. Anything on? Okay, let's. Yeah, that's what I'm chopping in now, right now. Um, Again, the forecast is pretty much everyone has the potential for some moderate to heavy rainfall. I'm not seeing anything beyond that. I'm not seeing flash flooding. I'll put it that way, unless someone has like a blocked drain or something of that nature. So we have yet another coronal hole. The frequency of them is really starting to pick up as the sunspot numbers start to decline. Really curious to see what the sunspot numbers look like by the time we get to late summer and fall. I think they'll be in the single digits, but we won't see a blank sun really until maybe the fall. Um, the activity is still pretty strong. So we'll probably see a blank sun or two by the time we get to maybe late October or November. When will the front and the rainfall clear out? I would say the heaviest stuff is done by 10, but then we're going to have like lingering showers until 6 a.m. the next morning, and then we're done. It's some pretty good questions. See, I'll check YouTube again. Anything else on X? Nope. So again, my whole rant there was not to be political in any way. I really don't care who you vote for. I really don't. Okay. But I will say this. Um, I just feel for the kids. And I say kids, they're young adults. I know. Everyone's a kid now to me, so I'm sorry. Yeah, we're at that age. We can say that. But you're starting on your career and all hell breaks loose. And that isn't to say that other people who have their careers, railroaded or whatever, in other, whether you're in the trades or you're a scientist, having this dropped on your lap like 15 minutes after walking out of your college or trade school is a nightmare, right? Okay, it's nobody's fun. So sometimes you just gotta be you gotta put away the rah rah my team nonsense and just have a little humanity. And just say, hey, look, this sucks. I hope everything works out for you. If you need to talk, come here. We'll talk. I'm sharing as many resumes as I can for people out there, and I got a lot of things cooking on my plate. Who knows? Maybe I can help people in a year or two because I got some things growing on my side. But it's not to say this is bad or that is good or this it's about just having a little bit of humanity. And it's saying, look, I understand. I've been there. I know when someone loses a job or doesn't know what their future is, it's terrifying for whatever reason, you know? So just have, God, just be a good person. Treat people the way that you'd want to be treated. Next threat of rain after tomorrow, one rain event is not going to dent the drought. Yeah, I know. I know. It's we need like a series of like 2-inch rainfall events. But like the 2-inch rainfall events are like light to moderate rain, so it actually gets into the water table. We are in a bind here, okay, in terms of our drought conditions. This is going to take some time. And my big concern is that with the atmosphere being so dry, fire danger is going to be going through the roof. So that's going to be a problem. Every time we get a westerly wind and there isn't much going on, um, that's just not good, at all. Let's Yeah, right. That's exactly what we need is a wet spring. But hopefully, I mean, some of the long range guidance suggests that. And if we do stay in MJO phase 1 or 2, it will be there. So we'll see how that plays out. I think we have all the questions. Did we get anything else? Okay, we are all caught up. Wow, you guys did a great job asking the questions to see if there's anything on Facebook or. Yep. Yeah, well, Facebook is Facebook. Well, it is what it is, which is a mess. Well, at the end of the day, really, this rainfall is going to be something that we obviously need. I don't see any flash flooding out of this at all, though, for tomorrow. And we're not seeing a lot of massive rainstorms on the way either, which is something that we really need. Anything good? Okay. Well, well, that's great. Okay. Well, hi, Jeff. Okay, so I think this is going to be one of those nights that's typical in the spring and the summer where we're going to pack it in a little earlier, rest up, finish the rest of my coffee. Um, let's see here. The next couple of weeks, we're going to be focusing more on, some of the books I like, some of the futures with the weather company, and some exciting stuff I'm going to be able to share with you. And also, just so you know, we're upgrading the back end of the website and also the subscription service. Not the prices, we already did that, but the software we're using, we're going to upgrade it because sometimes it charged people when it shouldn't, and I had to refund them and all that nonsense. And other people had a difficult time subscribing for whatever reason. So we're going to be working on upgrading all that, and all that is because of you guys, because of the subscriptions and the time watching the video. So I really appreciate it. Again, if you are not a premium member, it's easy to do so. Only $15 a month, and hey, it's well worth it because then you get all the important information to stay ahead of the storm, right? So in the meantime, thank you for watching. I really appreciate it, and as always, stay safe out there. Oh yeah, go Mets.